Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Another week, another weekly Wednesday webinar. Thank you very much for being here with us. We appreciate each one of you. As you know, it's Wednesday. It's a little bit warm here in the DMV, but it's cold in the house. That's why you see the fleece, But we appreciate each one of you that's joining us. We know that everybody's busy. We know that life happens, but you taking the time of your busy schedule to be here with us. So thank you very much. That means a lot to us because without our members, we wouldn't be able to do this. Our potential members as well. My name is Eddie Villanueva, and I'm the member engagement specialist here at the United States Senate Federal Credit Union. And I'm so excited for the topic that we'll be going over this evening, which is College Planning 101, how to plan, prepare, and pay for college. And we have such an expert on this topic this evening, but I'm not going to go ahead. We're going to give a couple more minutes for everybody else to join. And thank you very much for being here with us. And shout outs to Mr. Elton, which he has presented for us in other previous webinars. Actually, last Wednesday he was with us, but now he's attending, so he's just chillaxing. So, Mr. Elton, thank you very much for being here with us. We appreciate you. And everybody else that has joined us, thank you very much for being here. Best believe that you won't regret it. You're going to learn something new this evening. And if you have any questions or concerns, please make sure that you use the Q&A feature or use the chat, and we will answer all those questions live at the end of the presentation. And you might think that you as the attendee is the only one learning from these topics. Best believe that us as the panelists, we're always learning something new. Things are always changing. Topics are always being modified. So we're always learning something new. With that being said, Mr. Milton, I will give it to you with the introductions.
Hey, Eddie, thank you so much. And again, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us on an actual, it's a historic day. We all know September 11. We're celebrating 23 years, if I'm not mistaken, since the September 11 attack. So we do want to take a moment and remember all those victims. I myself, I recall being in middle school. Actually, I'm aging myself right now, and I happen to be at a middle school right next to the Pentagon. So it was very impactful for me, and I know we lost so many lives that day. So again, it's a very it's a special day for many of us. We remember everyone that we lost that day, and again, we thank you all for making time and coming in and learning on this very important topic, as Eddie stated, which is all about college planning. So Eddie already introduced himself. Everyone knows him. I mean, I think we got to put his picture on the website for the credit union, so that that's how much Eddie means to the credit union. So he's literally the face of the credit union. So Eddie from our marketing department, he will be assisting Andrea today, from marketing, with keeping track with all the questions. Anything that you want to know, we encourage you to interact with us using the Q&A or the chat feature. So that if at any point you have any questions, feel free to submit those questions on the chat or the Q&A section. And it is our commitment that we will answer every question that you submit us before we let you go this evening. Also, along with the panel of experts that we have here, we also have our very own Carrie Lazar, who is our marketing from the marketing department as well. I do know that she is in charge of putting the presentations together, but I think this one, it might be coming from student choice. So normally it's her, the one that puts it together, but this one, she got a break from putting all the presentations together. So, but again, all the presentation that you see, she is the one in charge of it. Everything is organic, and we do. And she does take a lot of pride in everything that we put together to present to you all on every Wednesday evening. So, and as many of you already know, myself, my name is Milton, and I'm the Membership Development Officer for the credit union. And my colleague Kim is taking a little break from us today. She's actually celebrating a great achievement that we had as a credit union back in Stanton today. So she will be missed tonight, but definitely wish her that she has a great time celebrating with our colleagues down in Staten. With that being said, I know Eddie already gave you guys a hint when he talks about when he told you all about who will be presenting this evening. It truly is a definition of an expert in this field. This is somebody that has over 30 years of credit union experience. Previously served as a VP for a credit union in New Hampshire. She's very passionate about assisting members, especially to help them understand how to pay for college. So I know that's the reason why many of you are here with us tonight. She is the director of strategic partnership for the Credit Union Student Choice. None other than our very own Suzanne Wilkins. So Suzanne, go ahead and take it away from me, and thank you again for being with us this evening.
Thank you very much, Milton. I really appreciate that introduction, and I appreciate being here today. I am going to shut off my video so that I can easily read the slides, but we want to jump right into it. What we're going to be talking about today is choosing a college. I'm going to be touching on that. The cost of an education, that's why we're all here. We see the price tags and they always go up and up and up. So how do we handle that on the family level? We're going to talk also about the FAFSA, the changes that have taken place over the last couple of years. How does that affect you going into the school year? The award letter, that is actually the financial aid package, what we call the financial aid package. We'll talk about the free money, which are grants and scholarships, the cheap money, federal direct loans, and what do you do with the gap, right? When those two things are exhausted and you still have the dollar to pay towards tuition, what do we do at that point? And we're going to talk about what your credit union, United States Senate Federal Credit Union, can give in terms of a solution to fill that gap. So we all know the value, well, I hope that we all know the value of a college education. We see that students that earn their four-year degree over students that only earn their high school diploma usually make more over their career, their lifetime. About $1 million more is what we're seeing out there. I want to just start by giving a really good foundation of how you should start this process, right? Preparing for college. I'll be talking a little bit about paying, but this is a really interesting time in the school year, right? So it's September, October. That's when juniors and seniors are getting really excited about college, right? The time ahead. But before I go to the juniors and seniors, I just want to talk to those parents that have students, perhaps in junior high, the freshmen and the sophomores of high school. This is the time for your students to really enjoy their educational career, where there's no pressure. This should be a time of exploring, identifying what their strengths are, what their interests are, delving into the type of classes that they're suited for. Are they suited for college prep classes? Are they suited for general classes or more technical classes? And some high schools have a technical shoot off of their programs. So this is the time for them to, focus on the big picture, but not get too in the weeds with all the details. It's time for them to start saving money for those book costs in the college years, right? Develop those critical studying habits. Again, this is a path where they're never going to come to again, right? So make sure that they are really enjoying this time. Now, it changes a little bit. The direction changes a little bit when you're hitting your junior year. So you're now starting to think about ACTs, SATs taking, the scholarship opportunities that you should start looking for. Financial aid events such as this webinar. I would really encourage everyone to attend as many of these webinars or financial aid events at school as you can so that you can get familiar with the terms. Because the more you're familiar with the terms, the more comfortable you are to make those decisions, and eventually it will save you money in the long run. Juniors, start your college visits if you haven't already. Start taking virtual tours. Start going on campus to get the feel. Interview students that are on the college campus. That is the best source for you, right? I think another good source would be if you could get your hands on some college newsletters written by students so you can get their perspective of the campus and the goings on of that school. And then, of course, juniors and seniors, please make sure share your calendars with your family. There's a lot of deadlines to be had, and you do not want to miss or go beyond a deadline because that's the point of no return. You don't get a do-over on the college level that you might get on the high school level. So make sure everyone is aware of school deadlines, state deadlines. We'll get a little bit more into the weeds on that in a few minutes. Seniors, you're going to be applying to colleges now. This is fall. This is when you're going to take an application. We're going to break that down in a few minutes. You're going to complete the FAFSA form, which is a form that just has demographic and financial information on yourselves and your parents. And you would need to complete this if you were looking for federal aid. Okay, so I encourage you to do that. But again, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Seniors, stay focused. Even if you get into a college, let's say if you're early action and you know that you're getting in, please make sure you maintain your grade point average. We don't want to see falling grades because I've seen admissions officers revoke their decisions. And that's the last thing that you want to do. And make sure you're active, not only with the school, but in your community if you can. And if you have a part-time job, that's okay. Do your part-time job. But again, we'll talk a little bit more about all those things later on. I wanted to break down for you the school application process, what your responsibilities are versus what your school guidance counselor may be. So first, the first step is your application to the school. This application comes along with essays, like a personal statement. So make sure when you write essays, have another set of eyes looking at them. I was listening to a podcast the other day. It's called the College Essay Guy. He's super resourceful, and I think that he breaks down the application process down to I think 8 parts. So if you want to take the time and listen to that, I think that's a good resource for you. Then the whole application package that's going to be sent to the college, you're going to have not only the application and essay, you're going to have transcripts, which is the responsibility of the counselor at your high school. They also are going to fill out a school report or profile. So basically, it's a report card for schools. What kind of courses do they offer? Do they offer AP? Do they offer college prep? Are they a technical school? They have to fill all of this out on behalf of you. Letters of recommendation, I'm going to put in the counselor's court instead of the student's court. Yes, you're going to have to probably get involved in this step, asking, your guidance counselor is going to have to send a letter of recommendation from them. Then certain schools might ask for a teacher recommendation. So your guidance counselor might ask you, which teacher should you approach? And then finally, you might have to ask a personal letter of recommendation. So those are the things I would say I should have checked off. Both the student and the counselor sort of work hand in hand together on this, but it really is the counselor's responsibility to get it all together to send it off in a package. Then, of course, the student has to take the standardized testing, whether it's SAT, ACT. They've got to fill out a financial aid application, which is that FAFSA form. And then, depending on their majors, they might need creative portfolios. Not all of us need creative portfolios, just some in the arts. Like something that comes to mind is if I'm a ballet major, I might want to post a video of one of my performances. Or if I'm a mechanical designer, I might want to showcase what I've created, right? So that is basically the school application process. Again, make sure you keep your eyes open for deadlines on when to submit those. And your guidance counselors will know what to do in terms of the deadline as well. Now, choosing a college can be daunting, but you want to make sure that you ask yourself really honest questions at the beginning of this process. You know, why college? Let's start there. Why do you want to go to college? Okay. What kind of college do you want to go to? A large campus, a small campus? Do you want to live on campus, off campus? How do you learn? Do you learn better with a teacher in a classroom of 20, 25, 30 students? Or do you not care if there is, an amphitheater of 200 students and you're learning in that environment? So there's a lot to figure out on how to choose a college, right? And you want to make sure you fit the college with your personality. I have a quick story. I have a lot of stories to tell. I have two wonderful daughters that have graduated through the college system. And I have a nephew son who is in college. So it's really an interesting, comparison of the two with all these things that I'm going to be talking about. But one of the things that I wanted to say is that my oldest daughter, a type A personality, did all of the checklists. This, I want to go to this prestigious school because it looks good on my resume. I have this, I need to do this. And she chose a school out in DC, right? So then my youngest daughter decides, I'm not going to worry about any of that stuff. I want to worry about, am I going to have fun on the campus? Am I going to like the professors? What kind of activities I can expect? And let me tell you something. My youngest daughter had the better experience because it was more suited to her. Now, of course, you have to weigh the academics in on this, but make sure you have what you want because at the end of the day, choosing a college, yes, it's for your development, but there's also now the business side of it, right? The money side of it. So you've got to get your money's worth on every level. So how do you do that? How do you choose? Where do you go? Well, there's a lot of resources that you can go to and out on the website. This is just one of the many that you can go to. I have the link down below. The nces.ed.gov/college navigator site is one of the tools that I have used for my family. And it's wonderful because you can filter general and then you can filter, you can bring that filter in. And one of the things that are on this page, right? You can see, do I want a 4-year school? Do I want a 2-year school? Do I want a public? Do I want a not? Or do I want a private? These things are questions that you have to research, right? So I would always recommend peppering in a private school, even though you think you can't afford it, and as well as public schools, okay? Because private schools tend to have deeper pockets because they're not tied to the Department of Education in terms of funding like the public schools are. So if there's tax cuts on the government level, they're not as affected as public schools are, right? So the only thing that you have to worry about for private schools is how much they increase their tuition year over year. So you might ask, well, how do I figure that out? Well, you go to this site and it will tell you. Because don't forget, when you start your search, you are building a 4 or a 5-year budget, okay? Always have to remember that. So I just wanted to give you a look at, the general information tab. I just pulled up Mason University in your area. And it shows the website, what they offer. Is it a bachelor's degree, 1 year certificate? What do they offer? Is it a large campus? What's the student population? Student to faculty ratio is 16 to 1. So that's important for family conversations. And this is where I find it really helps the pocketbook right here. You are going to get a year-over-year comparison on tuition and fees and how much they usually increase. So anything that you pay for, whether it's in-state or out-of-state, books, food, other expenses will show up here, okay? As well as if the school participates in financial aid. So one of the things that I always, talk to parents about is, yeah, the school could offer financial aid. They can say that, but what type of financial aid do they offer? And what is the percentage, right? So don't forget, student aid is classified as grants, scholarships, work study program, and student loans. So if a school says, yeah, I participate in financial aid, but maybe 80% of it is doled out in federal student loans and the 20% is actual free money, you might say, okay, we're going to put this school over here. We're going to look at a school that maybe offers 40% in student aids as opposed to 80%. So that's something that's really important to understand. Now, I always go over the cost of education based on a national average. And I do this not to scare people, but just so that they can understand what they're going to be looking at for a price tag, usually. And for conversation purposes, I always pull out the second bar and the fourth bar on this. So the second bar is a public, in-state, on-campus experience for your student. And the fourth bar is the private experience. You can see the public coming in at about $29,000 and the private coming in at about $60,000 a year. Now, those are national average because we are on the East Coast and we have availability to some really wonderful universities. You're more looking at probably about $35,000 for the public and minimally, I would say 70,000. I've seen them as high as 80,000. I'm from New Hampshire and we have this real, famous university here that is at least 80,000, if not more by now. I haven't checked it recently. So the reason why, again, I bring this up is for you to understand that there are different pockets of expenses. There's the tuition and fees, which really you can't move the needle on. There's housing and food, books and supplies, transportation, and other expenses. So anything beyond the dark blue area is what we call flexible costs. This is where we can make a difference on using the right choices during those 4 years. So every little choice adds up, okay? So let's go to what your credit union really believes and how to approach this price tag. First, they want you to take advantage of all the free money possible, right? The scholarships, the grants, and we'll talk more about that later. Then they want you to avail yourself of what we call the cheap money, which is the federal direct loans, okay? Usually those are always the cheapest game in town, okay? And then there is an exception that I'll tell you about later on for parents, not for students, but for parents. And then there is the gap. So how do you fulfill that gap? There's still going to be a payment due, right, to them. So do you pull it out of your 529 plan if you have one? If you own a house, do you tap into your home equity? Do you avail yourself of a tuition payment plan, which again, we'll talk about. And then, of course, there are the loans, whether they're federal or they're private. So if you have all these options in front of you, please reach out to your credit union to have a discussion on what is best, right? Because they know your financial profile better than anyone could, right? Or if you're more comfortable talking to a financial planner or a CPA firm, right? Because sometimes it gets in the weeds, especially if you have a 529 plan. I get questions all the time asking me, when should I use this? Should I use it all up front? Should I parse it over 4 years? What should I do? I really can't answer those questions. You really have to go to an expert that really understands what your financial outlook is. So let's begin with this rascally little form called the FAFSA form, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Now, you always should go to the URL that I've listed on this screen. Any other URLs are not the right one. I would always bookmark studentaid.gov because at this website there is a wealth of information. Not only is this where you're going to start to complete your FAFSA form, but this is going to give you resources on understanding student loans, applying for aid, all of those questions that you might have about federal student loans are really out there. Now, once you fill out this form, like I said before, it is a form that you have to fill out to get federal aid. It opens up doors for you to get those scholarships and grants, the federal work study program, the direct loans, institutional loans that schools might have their own student loan program, those federal plus loans, and any other additional loans that come along with that. Okay. It should be known that the FAFSA form and aid associated with it is first come, first serve. So the sooner you can fill this out, the better off you are. Now, here's a note. Usually this form becomes available October 1st of every year. However, last year, and unfortunately this year, the government has needed an extension on that deadline because there were, calculation errors in the background. So now what they're doing is they're taking just a small amount of schools and sort of testing them before they release that form out to the public as a whole December 1st. So again, usually this is released to the public October 1st, so you can fill that out fast. But this year it's extended to December 1st. So keep an eye, you have this studentaid.gov bookmarked. That's where you're going to get the latest and greatest information on when the FAFSA form is going to become available. So just keep your eyes open for that. So what happens with this financial aid process and how does it fit with the application process? Well, you can fill out a financial aid form, the FAFSA form, as soon as it opens up, which by that time your student will have decided on which schools they want to apply to, right? So your student is completing the application, but they're also completing the FAFSA form. So once that FAFSA form is completed, you can list up to at least 10 schools that you want to share this information with in order for them to put together a financial aid package. So once it's complete, the Department of Education calculates what's called a student index report, a student aid index report. It used to be called, for those parents that have had children in the school system for a while, it used to be called expected family contribution, but now it's known as a student aid index. So once they have that index, they'll issue a student aid report to your son or daughter. Now, your son or daughter will receive this via email. It will not come to the parents. It comes to the student. So if you want to see this report, ask your student, okay? At the same time, the school receives the same kind of report, but they're just called the ISER report, the Institutional Student Information Record. And then what happens is the college now starts putting together a financial aid package so that when your student gets accepted, they'll have everything together, okay? So that's basically the process. It usually takes about 7 to 10 days at the very most to get results from when you complete it to when the student aid report is issued. Now, you can fill it out by mail. I suggest don't do it. Always do it online because it's quicker. And don't forget, federal aid is first come, first serve, so the quicker the better. You will always have to apply you will always have to fill out the FAFSA form every year that you are in school, even in graduate school. So don't forget that. Now, I have a lot of parents that say, well, I'm not going to qualify for any federal aid, so why should I even bother filling it out? Well, I hear you loud and clear, and you might not qualify for federal aid. However, the school uses this to determine a financial aid package, and they might have scholarships that they want to give. They will not do that unless they see some financial information coming in from the FAFSA. So I would say go ahead and do it. It's not as bad as what it used to be in the past. They've really slimmed and trimmed it down. And now you can automatically upload your IRS documents to it, which makes it super simple and easy. Now, we do have a national webinar that we're going to have in November about the FAFSA form. You will be able to see that on your credit union's co-branded website with us. So I would suggest, because of all the changes, maybe you listening to it in November. I believe it's November 6th, but keep your eye open on the website and you'll see more information on that. So how do you determine what you need, right? So, universities and colleges have wonderful, what they call net price calculators. And what these calculators do is help you approximate what a financial aid package is, but they're not going to say that's exactly what your financial aid package is. It's just out there to give you an idea, okay? So I wanted to go over with you in a sample award letter. So what happens is in the month of maybe March or April, your student, if they've been admitted to a college, will get the financial aid package. And this is the summary of what it looks like, okay? So what your primary goal is to understand the cost of attendance, okay? And what they're going to do is they're going to minus out any of that free money, the grants and the scholarships. Then you also subtract any savings you put to understand what your net cost is, okay? So let's go over this slide. So you can see I broke it out into fall, spring, and then the academic year, okay, just for you. Now, every university is different in how they present award letters. They can be very confusing, so confusing that I've had a session on just how to read an award letter and have people coming into the session bringing their award letters in so that we can read through them and decipher what it actually is. So with this example, you can see the fall semester of 5,500, this spring semester for a total of 10,998. I broke it down to tuition and fees, housing and meals, books and supplies, transportations, personal, and then the total estimated cost. Okay, then I subtract out the free money, right? The scholarships and grants. And then what happens is that schools will subtract out their federal loans. So the typical 17 or 18-year-old, when they look at this, they're thinking, oh my gosh, this is great. I only have to come up with $11,000. But what they don't understand is that they have student loans embedded in that award letter, right? Because it's considered financial aid. Okay, so just make sure what you're dealing with. A lot of times, well, not a lot of times, let me walk that back. Sometimes award letters look at they'll give you a total amount of $20,000 for the year, and that's tuition and fees. So as a parent, you're saying, okay, $20,000 a year, I can handle that. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's stop here. What is that? What does that include? Okay, that $20,000, if they don't have a breakdown of the housing, the books, the transportations, all of that other stuff, you need to ask as a parent of that financial aid officer, is this the final tally? Because I don't see it broken down, okay? Some schools do that. Other schools send out a really clean and clear award letter like this. so you don't have any problems with that. Okay. The only thing that I would point out, a couple of things. So I pointed out that there's federal loans in there, but there might be work study also in that. Now, let me explain to you what work study is. It's a form of financial aid, and when you fill out the FAFSA form, you either say yes or no if you want to have your student have a part-time job at minimal wage, usually on campus, and this is for expenses. So let's say you see work study program for $2,000. Again, another story. My daughter had this on her award letter, and I got a call at the end of September, and she said to me, Mom, I can't do this work study and maintain good grades. You know, obviously, good grades are important to everyone, but for her, she knew she was going on to med school, so she needed a really good GPA. So she was really worried about that. I said, okay, great. Okay, $2,000 gone from the award letter. Where are we going to come up with that money for your expenses? So as a family, we had to discuss that. And, you know, she decided that she had to spend a little bit more time working the summer months while she was not in school to make up that difference. So just want you to be aware of that. One other thing that you should be aware of is any types of grants. Now, that grants are free money, but it comes with a stipulation, okay? So the teaching grant, let's say your son or daughter goes in as a teaching major and in year 3 decides, I don't want to be a teacher anymore, I want to be an accountant. The Department of Education can turn those grants back into loans. So just be careful of accepting grants that you understand what the stipulations are. And if it doesn't outline it on the award letter, call your financial aid officer and they will explain it to you. They'll be happy to explain it to you. So when you look at your award letter, I want you to understand, and you know, you might not remember this next March, but you know, please write this down. Your award letter is never written in stone. The only thing that is written in stone are the tuition and fees. Everything else is negotiable depending on your choices, okay? And you also have to remember when a financial aid officer puts an award package together, they're working off of income on prior years because the FAFSA form, that's what they ask. They ask for income on prior years. So one thing that comes to mind is that you could probably dispute an award letter if, let's say, you know, a most memorable example is COVID, right? So a lot of people, their job was impacted on that, right? And it's not reflected in an application anywhere. It's just reflected on the numbers. So the financial aid officer didn't know that maybe your hours were cut dramatically. So you need to have a conversation with your financial aid officer, right? Because they don't know if there has been a disability, a death, a divorce. Those are the things that you can come back and dispute your award letter with. So just know that it's not written in stone. There can be appeals, and it doesn't have to be life altering like that. It could be as simple as me living with my mom, taking care of my mom, having a daughter in another daughter in school, and then my oldest daughter going to college. You know, that might be a lot for me, and I might have to have a conversation with my financial aid officer because it isn't reflected on my tax returns or the FAFSA form. You know, so just keep that in mind. Now, another tip is usually the best time to ask for additional money is probably the first 2 weeks of June because May 1st is the decision deadline in this country. So once May 1st hits and the schools know the rosters that they're dealing with, the student rosters, they know the percentage that have, accepted their financial aid package and the percentage that hasn't. So they're sitting on some money, right? Because they've offered students, let's say they've offered 500 packages and only 300 students come back saying they want to attend. They're sitting on 200 packages, right? Not doing anything. So I would always ask, make sure that conversation looks like, you're demonstrating your interest in the school, your desire to be at that school, and just outline the reasons why and plead your case. And sometimes they come back with really good results. I had one man come back to me at a credit union saying that he took my tip into account and he got $5,000 knocked off the tuition payment. So that's significant. There's also what we call tuition payment plans. So let's say it's sort of like how layaway works, right? So let's say you have $20,000 that you have to come up with. And you're probably saying to me, I can't put $20,000 on a payment plan because usually these payment plans are like 10 months with the school. Um, but what I'm saying to you is, well, yeah, you can't put 20,000 on a payment plan, but maybe what you could do is put $1,000 on a payment plan. That's $100 a month for 10 months, right? That's $1,000 less you have to roll into a student loan. You multiply that by 4 or 5 years, that's $4 or $5,000 that doesn't need to go on a student loan. So there are ways to help save you money along the way. Um, this is probably one of my favorite slides to tell you how to save money, right? And what to expect. So again, this is for conversation and just ideas on ways to save your money. Tuition, right? The rent, tuition fees, room and board, whatever you want to call it. Now, when you're an incoming freshman, your hands are tied. The schools could demand that you stay on campus for the first 1 to 2 years. So you really can't live off campus to save money, which I would recommend if you're into that experience. Um, but maybe in year 3, you're an RA, where you can help out and get that fee absorbed on your tuition bill. Or maybe as a freshman, instead of going in with a single or double room, you go in on a suite with maybe 4 people in, and it's less money, right? So those are the little ways that you can, save on the cost of attendance, the overall cost of attendance. Food, again, freshmen, they have their hand tied. They're usually only going to get the cafeteria plan A, which could probably feed 2.5 people. And then in year 2, 3, and 4, they can be exposed to cafeteria plan A, B, C, D, D being rice, ramen noodles, all of that stuff. But I had a few students that came up to me and said that they got creative with this. Especially, there was one girl that said, there's no way I could eat all of this, and I didn't, want to waste this money. So she sold her credits to a football player that eats a little bit more than she does. So that's another creative way. Or you could ask the school if you could get a credit back for next year. Who knows? But just know that the food options get a little bit less restrictive as the years go on, right? Books, crazy expense. Okay, I have it here at 200 again. The majority of it is anywhere from 200 to 300. I've seen it as high as 350 for new books bought through the school. But the options are that you can rent books, you can buy used books. Just make sure that you get your professor's permission before you do that. Another creative way is that if you have a book account, like a book expense account, and you approach your professor, and this takes some courage, and I understand that. And you ask them, look, these books are really expensive. Is there a cheaper way out, or can you help me in this? I have X amount of money in my account, and which isn't going to cover the books for this year. Professors do take the time to set aside 5 to 6 books every year for conversations like that. So again, parents need to coach their students on how to approach that, but there could be some savings there. Transportation, it is what it is. You really can't move the needle on that. Maybe bringing, your bike if it's a city campus type thing, maybe you could save some money there, but it is what it is. But then there comes the personal expenses. And again, Carrie loves it when I get on my soapbox, and I'm going to do it right now. This is my soapbox moment. Personal expenses is where a lot of students get in trouble. And I see this, and I talk to students right when they're about to graduate and they're faced with student loan payments. So let me explain to you how they could get in danger with surplus funding, what I call surplus funding. So as you know, we talked about the cost of attendance, and then there's a gap, and parents usually have to tap into a student loan to get to fund that gap, right? And what happens is the school gets those funds, and if there's anything left over, especially for those students that are not living on campus, they'll put it in a student account to pay rent, or even if there's just normal surplus, right? For whatever reason they overcalculated and there's an extra $500 in the student's account. Well, what happens is the student will take their debit card attached to this account, and they'll go down to the local cafe, and they'll buy a $5 or $7 cup of coffee. And what they don't realize is that they just funded that cup of coffee. They financed that cup of coffee for over 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, depending on the funding, where those funds came from, whether it was a private student loan or a federal loan. And, a lot of students don't even think about it. I wouldn't think about it at that age. I didn't think about it at that age until you have to make payments on those student loans after you graduate. And then you have some regret, right? You say, gosh, I shouldn't have used it on, buying some clothes when I had extra money. Put that extra money back onto the student loan. There are no prepayment penalties on student loans ever. So I just wanted to, hopefully that helps in trying to save some money as you go along. So let's talk a little bit about the scholarships that you get without filling out the FAFSA form. Okay, so these, again, I don't recommend it, but if you do, these are the private scholarships, right? I would start looking for scholarships the end of your junior year, the summer ending your junior year. I would spend about an hour to an hour and a half every week looking at scholarships, and you never stop until you graduate from college. I know a lot of them stop at the end of 12th grade, and they think that they don't have to do it ever again. I would recommend never stopping. Okay, so scholarships can be granted on a needs or merit based. And it could be generated for a variety of different reasons, not just academic or sports. It could be as simple as you writing left-handed, or you having brown eyes, or purple hair, you dyeing purple hair. It's crazy the amount of scholarships that are out there. And you also have to understand with these private scholarships how they are awarded. Is it in a lump sum? Is it over a period of 4 years? How do the schools take into account these private scholarships? Some schools take it away from their financial aid package. I know that happened to my daughter. She spent her summer looking for private scholarships, and she had about $5,000. And this school actually took it away from her, which reduced her financial aid package by $5,000. So that being said, colleges are getting very competitive in this arena, and they might not take away from the financial aid package. So I would ask the financial aid officer how they view these private scholarships. Now, private scholarships could be issued by civic organizations, religious affiliations, your employer, parents' employer, students, a part-time employer. So I would suggest looking at all avenues. Now, These are the resources for scholarships that we're very comfortable with, very different ways of going about finding funding for scholarships. So I would be very comfortable if you would go to any one of these. Because there's some scholarship websites that are scams. And if they're charging you money to get free money, that's usually a telltale sign of scam operators. So keep that in mind. Tools for scholarship searches. Obviously, Google is a really good one. I would always put your major in first, then the word association, and then the word scholarship, and you're going to get a whole list of scholarships. So if a teaching or counting association scholarship, you'll get the higher dollar amount first, and then all the way down to the smaller scholarships at the end of the page, right? But I would caution you with that. The higher dollar amounts are basically national scholarships, and they're very hard to get, to be honest with you. The smaller scholarships, the $50 one, the $100, the $500, those are worth going to, because usually you can fill out an application for a scholarship and have like a standardized one or two essays for that to interchange. Once you have that built, you want to send that out to all of these scholarships. Another way to search for scholarships is just your county's name. This is a county that I live in, Stratford County Foundation, and the word scholarship. So just some tips on looking for scholarships. This is a money-making mindset, right? Every dollar adds up. I would like you to build up a scholarship list and use it every year, right? So the best way to do that is to go to award nights, right? And get those brochures. Graduation programs, right? They list scholarships. That's a good way to start your scholarship list. Make sure you follow all instructions on the scholarship site. Anything that is out of the norm, they will just discard. So if they ask you to staple it instead of paper clipping it, pay attention. If they say write it in crayon, red crayon, and you write it in pen, they're going to throw that out. It's just a way to vet it. Make sure you include your job history on these scholarship applications, especially part-time, because it takes up your time as a student, right? So you might not be able to partake in student activities as much as someone that doesn't have a job, part-time job. Reference letters, some scholarships ask for these reference letters. It's great to have a teacher who knows you, who knows your character, or an employer that really knows you. Do not use someone that you've never met before, someone that just coaches you on, reference letters, or an alumni of a college that you just happen to come across on a website. Don't use those types of references. I would use someone that knows you and your character and your grit, okay? And please highlight any charity work that you have. So just be careful when you're out there looking for scholarships. Avoid scholarships just as involving like luck, like drawings, scholarship, like sweepstakes or lotteries. It's something that it's really easy to complete and there are no essays. Just be careful of those, because those tend to, they're just trying to get your information to sell you other things. The worthwhile ones, right? They have the competitive element. It requires the effort. It has multiple sections. So just make sure that you go over those with a fine-tooth comb, the directions, everything. Now, I'm not going to go over the scholarship mistakes. You can see right here what they are. However, I will, and I always tell this story because I think it's the most impactful one when talking about scholarships, is don't give up on your scholarship search. Please fill out all applications as much as you can. I have a coworker that was on a committee, a scholarship committee. They were giving away $40,000, which is a significant amount of money. And this young man won the scholarship. And at the event, the scholarship giving event, he asked them, what won me the scholarship? Was it my grade point average? Was it my involvement in the school? I want to duplicate this, for future reference. And they said, you were the only one that applied, So I was thinking back to my daughters, my oldest daughter applied for every scholarship, she thought on the planet. My youngest one didn't. And she didn't get as much, right? And I asked her, I kept on asking her, how are you doing on your college, scholarship searches? And she would say, well, I don't qualify for this. And, we've got to remember 17 and 18-year-olds, they're not used to selling themselves and having that type of confidence in themselves where they say, you know what, I am, I am a candidate for this. And even if you don't think you are, just do it anyway. You never know what will happen and the money that you can get. Now, we've already talked about the award letter appeal, so I'm not going to go into that. We talked about scholarships again. I wanted to show you what federal grants are. Again, if you go to studentaid.gov, you'll see more information on these grants issued by the Department of Education. So I think that some of them are really significant, so I would check them out. Work study, we've talked about that. Let's talk a little bit about federal direct loans. Now, this will come on your award letter package, right? Your financial aid package. These loans are made directly to the student by the Department of Education, the federal government. They have to be a US citizen or an eligible non-citizen with a valid Social Security number. They have to have graduated with a diploma, high school diploma, a GED, or pass a homeschooling test. They have to be enrolled in an eligible program seeking a degree or certificate, and they have to be making satisfactory academic progress in order to get these loans. Now, if a student's loans starts to decline, this loan could be revoked. So that's why I put that satisfactory academic progress, also known as in the industry SAP. Every school has a different level of SAP. So make sure you check that out on the school's website. Now, the direct loans, there are two types of direct loans made only to your students, the subsidized and the unsubsidized. The subsidized is awarded to students based on financial needs. So what it means is that the government pays the interest while the student is in school. It's at a fixed rate of 6.53 as of today, plus a 1.057% loan fee. So that loan fee comes right off the top of the loan. So, mom or dad or student has to pay out of pocket for that fee. The second type of loan is the unsubsidized. So everyone could be eligible for this, and it is not needs-based. So what this means is that the student has to pay the interest. But it can be deferred while the student is in school. So no payments while the students are in school. Interest still calculates, and it does what we call get capitalized at the end of their 4 years. So you're paying interest on interest and principal. Okay, so if you get an unsubsidized loan, make sure if you can afford it, pay at least interest-only payments, okay, to avoid that capitalized interest. Now, I couldn't do it. I just chose deferment for my daughters. There's no shame in that, but there are other options out there for you to avoid that capitalized interest. Interest rates still the same on the subsidized as the unsubsidized. The term on this is 10 years with a 6 months grace period. These are the limits for incoming freshmen. $5,500. So not a lot of money compared to the actual cost of attendance, right? So keep that in mind. And that's only for 1 year, the total year, that 5,500. I also put in sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Independent students have a little bit more. Most of us don't fall in the independent category if you're 18. You are not an independent unless you have certain circumstances, but most of us are dependent. Even if your parents say they're not going to pay for your schooling, you're still considered a dependent student. Now, let's talk about how you can also fill that gap. And what you might see on that award letter is what we call the Federal Direct Plus loan for a parent. So this is an enticing loan because there's really no credit limit on this. It's just the borrowing limit is just the cost of attendance minus any financial aid. However, the parent has to qualify for this. They will pull a credit report on you. If you do not qualify for this loan, that means that your student automatically qualifies for more aid. Okay, so make sure that you have a conversation with the federal aid officer, the financial aid officer, excuse me. Something to note is that this is, even though it's at a fixed rate, look at that rate, it's at 9.08%. The origination fee is 4%. Okay, that fee it's over 4%. If that fee is so high, they let you finance that into the loan. Okay, so make sure when you are presented with a plus loan on the award letter, doesn't mean you have to take it. You can start looking at other avenues, those private student loans. That's where private student loans come in. Okay, I just again want to delve into, we've already talked about that. We'll talk a little bit about what the difference is between the plus loan and a private student loan. So a private student loan, it should only be used after everything else has been exhausted, right? And these are loans that are not under the umbrella of the Department of Education. Credit unions, banks, fintech centers, these are the institutions that handle private student loans. They create them, they set underwriting criteria, which is different than the federal direct loans to your students, because those loans don't have any underwriting criteria. These loans do because they're for more money. Okay, so rates can vary by institution, and they could be variable or they could typically variable rate based on prime. There are fixed rates out there. It most definitely probably will need a co-borrower if the applicant is 18, because they look at income, they look at credit, right? There are usually no origination fees, but if there are, the most that it should be is 3%. If there shouldn't be any, really, in my opinion. If there is, move on to the next private lender. You know, they should be very transparent as their fees. The options of deferment are available for private student loans while the student is in school, as well as interest-only payments, or you can make full payments while the student is in school. Terms can be anywhere from 10 to 25 years on a private student loan. So let's talk a little bit about what your credit union offers, which is really a cool and unique way because they offer a line of credit. So you only have to apply once during the 4 years, so you don't have to worry about doing this every year, right? You could borrow up to a line of credit for $75,000. You don't have to use it all at once. You can use it as you need it, okay? And this is only eligible for students that are going to a 4-year school, what we call a Title IV school. Basically, that's a fancy term saying that the school has financial aid available. And their rates are as low as 8%. So they do not have any origination or prepayment penalties. They do offer terms of either 20 or 25 years based on the loan amount that your student graduates with. So if it's 40,000 and under, it's a 20-year term. If it's over 40,000, it's a 25-year term. Again, they offer full deferment, but they also offer a possible opportunity for the co-borrower to be released after 48 months of consecutive on-time payments. Whereas the plus loan for parents under the federal government, you have that loan for 10 years in your name only. This private student loan is in the student's name first and your name second. So you could be potentially released. And also, there's also an option called the graduated repayment available. Again, this is offered only one time after graduation. And what it does is it extends that term of 20 or 25 years to 40 years to make the payments small for 2 years. And then after 2 years, it reverts back to either 18-year or 23-year term. I do not recommend using this at all unless your student is trying to protect his or her credit because they cannot find a job, maybe there's financial hardship. But if they're just looking for a breather, I would not recommend this because you're paying extra interest on this. But there are ways to protect your credit coming out of college. So I've covered a lot here. I understand a lot's been said, but you are not alone. Please know that your credit union is in lockstep with you, and they offer a free college access counselor. So if you go to their website, you can ask their counselor any question at all, whether it pertains to FAFSA, how to choose a college. Let's say you have student loans and you're thinking about refinancing them. She'll absolutely answer any of those questions for you. You can either send her an email and she'll reply within 48 hours, or you can schedule an appointment with her on the phone. She has her scheduler out there where you can talk one-on-one with her with your own unique scenario. So please tap into this. I think that it's super helpful. With that, I thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it, and I will be on as long as you need me if there are any questions.
Suzanne, thank you very much for that great presentation. A lot of information that you were saying, but it's very valuable. These are things that you need to consider, if you're planning to, go to college soon, or if you have a student in the house. So these are great, great questions. I mean, great information, I should say. And I know that you provided a few links that will be very helpful. And also Carrie shared one of the links on the chat. Can you explain what that link is, Carrie?
That was the link that Suzanne, so the college counselor that Suzanne was just talking about.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And then, this is some information that some of us wish knew before we went to, get our education. I know Andrea is feeling, some type of way because she was telling me how, she wished she would have known this, but that's what we're here for, and that's the reason why the United States Senate Federal Credit Union does these webinars, is because we want to make sure that when you take that next step in life, whatever it is, whether it is you're getting a new home, a new car, a new loan, and in this topic, a college loan, or you're planning to attend college, then you can have the information beforehand. So thank you very much. And I do see a question that came, so Andrea, I will pass it on to you.
So the question is, does the credit union offer scholarships for students?
That's a great question, Andrea. I'll take it. And the answer to that is not yet. And the reason why I say not yet is because we are working and putting something together. I can't disclose any information as of now, but very soon we might be able to put something together, where we can give even more back to our community. But stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for that. We're hoping that we can have some amazing news, amazing updates for you all, perhaps towards the end of the year. So, right, Carrie?
Yeah, and I was going to add those, even though what Milton said is exciting. Occasionally we should do it more often, and now that it was brought up, we should do it really soon. But we do educational webinars for the younger crowd, and when we have prizes, it's like a gift of, or the gift of college gift certificate where you could apply it to a 529 or any student payment. So that's something for now, but like what Milton said is really exciting. But that was all I wanted to add. Sorry. That was a good question.
Thank you, Carrie.
I think
And I'll second what Eddie was saying too. I'm sorry, Eddie.
No, go ahead.
In essence, as was saying, this presentation has been very, very helpful. I mean, I think one of the things we also have to keep in mind is that, there's always these are things that for those that have even if you have a freshman right now, I mean, these are things that you gotta start getting on top of right away. The information is always changing, and there's always different plans. There's a lot of tweaks here and there. And again, if you do have any questions, we highly recommend that you call us at the number that you see there on the screen. we'll be more than happy to assist you. And I know early this year, I believe we had someone that actually had twins. They were going to college, and they were still trying to figure out how they're going to pay for it. And I tell you what, this is actually a testimony. They reached out to us the day after we did this particular presentation, similar one. And within 5 days, we were able to fund their account, provide the loan, approved it for the twins. So truly is very important. Again, don't wait until the last minute. As I think Suzanne was very specific in terms of those deadlines, particularly for those that are seniors and juniors this year. We do need to make sure that we're staying on top, keeping track of all of those important deadlines, and have a conversation with our kids, right, about the importance of keeping up with those grades, which is extremely important. And again, truly. Lots of great insights that Suzanne was able to provide for all of us here this evening. So, and just know that this presentation is being recorded. We will be sharing it in our website. Also, we're gonna share it in our YouTube channel as well too. But if you think this is something that you want to share with your friends and family, feel free to send it to our website, and then where you'll be able to find the copy of this presentation as well. And I believe we're also sending a copy of the presentation right to all the members, Carrie.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I'm
I
sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Was that you? Do you have another question, Eddie?
Go ahead, Carrie. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask a question if I thought I wasn't taking time from anybody else. But my son, Suzanne, if you have any insight, my son, he's a junior and he's 16. And although I want him to go to school so bad, and I've been planning on it, he's just not interested. So even the thought of getting him to do the scholarship stuff, no, like when you talked about that, like we are miles from that with his attitude. And I just don't know how to get the thought in his head. Like no matter what I do or talk about or try or the examples I try to set, he does not. Any tips?
Um, for him to get motivated to
To be interested in college and the scholarships, all that stuff.
yeah. So I think there's a lot of pressure, right, for kids to get into college, and I'm thinking back with my kids, right? You always have they're competing against their peers. They're competing, they want to present a good face for their teachers and their guidance counselors, and sometimes it's not the right path right away. Like it, what kind of, what is he interested in? Is he more technical with his hands? And does he learn more with his hands than, academic wise? Those are the questions that I would start asking him, instead of saying, you've got to do this, or you've got to get a list of colleges together. You could say, gosh, what kind of courses are you taking now that you like? And then maybe, go down that path. Um, or there are some students that take a year off after high school, that what we call a gap year. But as a parent, because I was faced with that with my nephew, to be honest with you. We had this 2 year, my nephew son and I had this conversation because, it was funny raising two daughters and then trying to help guide my nephew son was a little bit, different. They respond differently. And I found myself trying to breathe through it. Like I was sort of like a type A person with my daughters, right? You got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And I did that with him, but it wasn't working. And I said, okay, I got to take a deep breath. And I said, okay, if you are not interested in college, you need to come up with a plan B, because after high school, you've got to do something. You've got to do something because it's not easy to get along in this world without some type of education and some type of money coming in, right? So we started with that conversation, and then it morphed into, hey, if you want, do you want a technical school? Do you want to go into the military? If you do, the military will pay for your school. So we had a lot of conversations, and I thought the most effective thing that I did was just take a beat and a breath and give him different options other than the college, path. And then he came back one night, shocked me because I kept on saying, "Did you write your essay? Did you write your essay? Did you write your essay?" And then I stopped. And it was coming up, it was the day of the deadline. He comes downstairs and he says, "Can you read this through for me?" And I was shocked. I was shocked. So I get it, Carrie. I understand where you're coming from. You're really concerned, but I think they just need some breathing room and some other options to choose from. And I don't know if it'll work for everyone, but it worked for me. And I hope that that was helpful.
Yes, thank you. It's another way to kind of look at the situation, and thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's tough. It's tough because you want the best for your kids, right? You always want the best for your kids, and we know better, right? We know better for them. We get it.
Yes.
But sometimes they don't. And, I think it's just offering them other pathways and realizing, okay, you know, I also had a conversation about what, apartment rents look like, right? In this area. And how is he going to do that if he's working at the grocery store, bagging groceries? How is he going to make it? So that's why we talked about the plan B. And so yeah, I know, Carrie. It's let me know how you make out, and if there's anything else I can do, I'll be more than happy to look into anything for you.
Thank you. Thank you,
You're welcome.
everybody.
So we do have another question. Which factor is the most important when you're deciding how much to borrow in student loans?
Yeah, so the rule of thumb for student loans, how much you should have at the end of your 4 years should be no more than what you're going to make starting coming out of school. So if you have, unfortunately, I don't mean to pick on teachers, but around here they don't get paid very much in my area. So if you're a teaching major, you come out of school and you're only making $35,000, the most in student loan debt you should have is 35,000, right? That's the rule of thumb. Um, and I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb thinking about it now. But again, you never, exhaust everything you can, all the free money, all the cheap money first. And be careful of the cheap money. We're in an election year, so I don't know which way the wind is going to blow because both candidates are very diverse in their philosophies. So I don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months. So make sure when you sign on the dotted line, you understand what the rate is, what the term is, how often if it can change, how often it can change, or if it never changes. Always get things in writing when you're going down the path of getting a loan. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yes. Thank you so much. And we have one more question. Do you have any tips and tricks on how to manage your student loan debt after graduating?
Oh gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, that's a whole other webinar. But I think what there's a few tips and tricks here. And I think the first thing is understanding what you have. At the end of your undergrad career, do an assessment of your loans, all of your loans. What are the payment amounts? How long of a term is it? Take a look at the rates and see if you can refinance those loans into one loan. for a better rate. Okay, again, in 4 years, we don't know what way the economy is gonna go. So that's one thing. Just knowing what you have is a big plus right there. Number two, there are no prepayment penalties on student loans, whether they're federal or they're private. So make the sacrifice. Anything extra that you have in your income, put it towards that loan. If you get a raise every year, put the raise toward the loan like you never got it, right? Just get into that mindset. If you have tax return funds, put that money towards that loan. Seek out employers that have their own debt forgiveness programs. Some employers will pay half of your monthly student loan payment after 2 or 3 years of employment or after 1 year employment. Check with the HR department to see what they offer. There's so many different programs that when you have your exit interview, make sure with the college that you're graduating from, make sure you understand, your footing, and always, always, always have that communication with your credit union. Credit unions are so much more different than banks. They are, I've been in credit unions all my life, so I am sort of prejudiced. I'm going to admit that, but I have good reason to be, because they will always talk through crisis, financial crisis, or when it's not a crisis. They're really good at helping you plan the right direction and answering these questions. Like this higher education subject matter is so vast, and there's so many questions, and so many people don't know what they don't know. So always turn to your credit union for advice on finances. They'll be able to do a comparison. Our college access counselor does comparisons all the time with refinance loans. So those are the tips right away that come to mind.
Thank you,
Thank you
Suzanne,
so
for
much.
those great tips. As I was actually speaking to a friend earlier, and then you were talking about like, hey, I can wait for you to make your last payment. And then she was telling me like, I don't know when that's gonna happen. So, I might definitely give her these tips because she went to school for fashion, but she's not designing anything right now. But it's one of those things that, it's just about asking the questions.
Yep.
We always emphasize that with other webinars that we do, like as our members, they need to do their due diligence to let us know like, hey, what is it that you want to accomplish, what's your goal? And then now that we
Mhm.
talk about students, like how you were talking about the scenario, to give them different options, like, hey, what do you want to accomplish in life? Like, do you want to take a particular career path, or do you want to be more technical and go work, and what's the goal? So we got to understand what they want to do, and then we can give them the solutions. So, and then all those repayment programs that you were talking about, that's something that I never knew. So it's always something good to know. And, it's good to ask the right questions. So, because the help is there, just like how you were telling us the story of the student that, hey, why did I choose for this scholarship? And he was the only one that applied. So if you don't ask the question, you don't know what you don't know at the end of the day.
Right.
So those are great resources, like you were saying. I
Right.
think
And
that's,
it's good to dream, but it's also good to have your foot on the ground too, right? So I learned this lesson with my oldest daughter, who went to that prestigious school in DC, and she went as a history foreign service school of foreign service major, and she didn't use her degree when she got out. Now, I was very fortunate in the fact that she had a lot of scholarships. So it really didn't matter that she didn't use her degree. But for someone that, let's say, if she didn't have all those scholarships, and we were hand over fist, eye deep in all these student loans that she would have to pay back, so does it make sense? Does your career makes sense that and matches your output and income, right, versus your loan. Like, I don't have any, listen, I love history majors. I think they're very important in the world. We need our history. However, maybe she should have chosen a public school around here to do her history major. If she didn't have all those scholarships now, like if she didn't have a good financial aid package, I probably would have stopped the brakes, put the brakes on and say, no, you can't go to the school. You've got to go to a school that's more reasonable for you. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially during undergrad. So I'm not saying that undergrad doesn't matter. It just means that you have to get your degree for as cheap as you can, right? And then if you want to spend extra money getting your graduate, your MD, your PhD, that's when it sort of matters a little bit more on what school you go to because of your major. But when you're in an undergrad situation, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get your degree with really good grades so that you can get a good job. That's what you're trying to do, right? So that's just another scenario in my head when I sat down with my daughters. I learned a lot of lessons with my oldest daughter versus my youngest daughter. And now my nephew's son, I think is thank goodness, I think we're on the right path, knock on wood, with him. So yeah, again, a lot to it. And it is an exercise in understanding yourself, understanding what your goals are, and then finding the best fit for you as well as financially. That's what it comes down to.
Thank you, Susan.
844-827-4305. If you have any additional questions, Suzanne, she knows it all about from A to Z. She will be the one that you want to talk to. Student Choice is here to help you as well. And that's the reason why we have the partnership with the United States and the Federal Credit Union as well. Milton?
No, I pretty much just was gonna, reiterate, just second what you said. In essence, there's a reason why Suzanne is our expert when it comes to, student loans through Student Choice. Really, 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 she's very passionate, as you can see. This is what she's done for over 30 years, especially working with credit unions. So when she's saying that she's a little biased towards credit unions, there's a reason for it. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist you, help you, connect you with Suzanne, and make sure that we equip you with all the right tools. As you get ready to make that big jump into the decision as to what do you want to do, and how you're going to pay for your career, and make sure that you do all your due diligence, all your homework, before you make that commitment. So again, Suzanne, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful presentation. We truly, truly appreciate you taking time and spending the time with us this evening. Thank you so much again. And with that being said, also before we go, I just wanted to invite you all to next week's webinar. Last week we had Elton as one of our experts, who's also still on the participants on this call. Today, we had the privilege of having Suzanne, and next week we're gonna switch it up a little bit. We're gonna go to a 3 p.m. Eastern time for our webinar next Wednesday, and it's all about retirement. 3 keys to financial confidence, it's going to be led by your very own financial advisor, Michael Schimmel, from Fellows Financial. So help us spread the word. If you find this helpful, please do share this with your friends, your family, your colleagues. It is free to attend. We don't charge you a dime. This is something that we do. And it's something that, again, what we stand for as a credit union, which is people helping people, and that's what the United States Senate Federal Credit Union is all about. So with that being said, I want to thank you all again for making time and being with us this evening. Suzanne, thank you so much again, and we look forward to having you back in a near future with another amazing presentation.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Take care.